Hey everyone, we're back for another week of Movie Mainline. This is with episode 0, I'm a little bit confused. I think this is episode 2 of Movie Mainline. I am Gregsrisavasdi, the moderator, because I really don't have any interesting things to say. That is Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes, editor, connoisseur, what should I say? What should I say?
I'm a connoisseur of editing.
Of life? How about life connoisseur? How's that? Life
there you
enthusiast?
go. Life is tight. Life is tight.
Okay, put that on your wall, folks, or meme it, or life is tight. That's very not. I'm not being sarcastic. That is very profound and actually straight to the point. Straight to the point. There's Purkey down below. He is a YouTuber, but I don't mean that in a negative sense. He is a constant. Yeah. He's a cinephile who's I actually love watching his YouTube reviews. He's also a film critic. What else are you, Bruce? You're a punk enthusiast, life enthusiast?
Yeah, old punk rocker, ex-grunge rocker, if you like to use that term to make it easier on yourself. My claim to fame is that Nirvana opened for us, but that's about it.
Wow. Do you have any kind of memorabilia from that day? Maybe a ticket, some kind of stub, some kind of thing?
I made a flyer for their first paid gig they did in this place called the Community World Theater in Tacoma, which was it was a former porn theater, and it got turned into a punk rock venue. And I made the flyer, but if I had kept the original flyer, it would be worth thousands probably. But I didn't keep the original hand-drawn flyer, so I only have copies of it.
Did you already know back then that they were going to be something, that they were very talented from what you were hearing?
I did. Well, I went to college in '87 up in Bellingham, so I left Tacoma, and I had seen him a few times before that. And then my brother started sending me the early demos, and I was like really into them. And I was telling all my friends who were into Rush and stuff, and they were like, "Yeah, whatever." So I thought they were awesome, but no one else did. So,
and by the way, no diss to Rush, right? We all love Rush.
It's just different.
It's
a different thing.
Just different.
Very different.
We're also props and love to Luis Lacau. He's not with us this week, but he's here in spirit, and he's going to be doing all the engineering work and post-up work, and we miss him this week very much. So
he should be back next week, though.
He will, and hopefully, I'll still be on because I'm hanging by a thread. So now, have you guys seen a lot of movies within the last 5-6 days? Eric, have you seen a lot? Well, you always see a lot. Oh, yes. Okay. Do you still have 11?
At least 7 or 8.
7 or 8. I've seen maybe two or three. I'm the guy who wanted to do 500 movies this year, and I probably have seen less movies than you, Eric, and Bruce. So,
well, I didn't get through 11 this week, but that was the first week because I wanted to, have some on the back burner in case I need to hit them up. But yeah, I did see quite a few this week.
Nice. I'm going to just Bruce, how about you? It's been a good week for you as far as movie watching, right?
Yeah. I'd say like 7 or 8. I think I said 8 or 9. I'm at 170 for the year so far, or something like that. Wow. With a few shorts in there, but not very many. I haven't cheated too much, but whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. I've seen several this week. I'm just going to say for our next episode, I know we're focusing on this episode, but here's a little bit of a teaser. As an Asian American, I've always loved Brandon Lee, and I actually was able to interview Brandon Lee years ago for The Crow. And you got to admit, I was so excited because I was thinking, I was 20 in my early 20s, and I was thinking Asian American actors, it's going to be a whole change. It's going to Brandon Lee's going to blow the roof off of everything. And then, the tragedy occurred. But Eric, you have something special lined up for next week.
Yeah, no, next week I was going to do a Showdown in Little Tokyo this week, and then just before we were recording, I saw that there was 2 movies of his that I hadn't seen. One of them is not Laser Mission. I have seen that, but there was Legacy of Rage and another one I can't remember the name of. But
I've never even heard of him.
I'm all Brennan Lee next week. So if you like Brennan Lee, show up next week. All my picks are going to be all Brennan Lee movies.
And shoot me a message on what one you think's the best of those, and I will try to catch it too.
Well, that would probably be, for me, it'd be either Showdown Little Tokyo, Rapid Fire, or The Crow. But there's he's got some earlier ones that We'll get into it next week.
Sounds good. We'll talk offline. How's that?
It really hurts me not to do a Brendan Lee retrospective right now, but
we'll do it. We'll do it next week.
Bruce,
I will show restraint.
Before we get to our merry-go-round of movie recommendations, Bruce, I just want to really, I think we did not cover this, because just for the people who are watching this feed, you have this Johnny Depp poster, Dead Man.
Yeah.
How important is that movie for you as far as Jim Jarmusch, and why is that poster up on your wall?
Well, these are some of the posters that I got way back when you could get posters for free from video stores. So that's kind of the ones I got. Although I have one that I have to put up later if I still have it. I got Blackula, and I haven't got it up yet.
Wow.
But I've got it somewhere.
That movie's
that's
so
one of
good.
my favorites.
Real quick, Blackula. That's one of those movies that I saw because I thought, just the name alone, it seems like a silly movie. And then Blackula is a legit good movie.
Yeah,
really?
Well, they got a Shakespearean actor playing Blackula. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be campy, and it kind of is. But Blackula, if you haven't seen it, is a legit good movie.
I thought it was just
solid entry on
really?
blaxploitation.
Yeah.
Okay, and very quickly, Dead Man, one of your favorite westerns, maybe, or is it just because it was a cool poster and it has Jarmusch in it?
I liked it today. I haven't really revisited it for quite a few years. It's super artsy Western, of course, but I like the crazy humor, and it's one of those, it's kind of like a Suspiria. You either hate or love the soundtrack, because the soundtrack really puts itself in your brain on that one. Dead Man,
that's amazing.
Very strong soundtrack.
Did you see that little shirt of love that was sent right out to you right there?
Yeah.
Very cool Suspiria, folks. For our podcast listeners, Eric Holmes is wearing a Suspiria shirt, and Bruce,
mine is
wearing
X Los Angeles 40-year anniversary.
Oh, X Los Angeles, yes, X. You're excited about them coming back and doing that new album, and am I right? I'm horrible with punk.
Yeah. They're amazingly still chugging along. They're the Rolling Stones of punk, I guess. As far as longevity. So,
yeah. Before we get to movies, just regarding punk, does television count as punk rock? Because I think I listened to what's that Marquee Moon or something.
Marquee Moon, yeah.
I think
that's like one of those proto like they call it, like one of those pre-punk albums, like the Stooges,
right.
Say Stooges, and Patti Smith's like early stuff, and Television, and all those kind of bands. Even they'll say Bowie sometimes a little bit, and a lot of those kind of bands.
I'm getting
they weren't quite like officially punk, but they were not what was going on at the time. They were very weird for their own time. So, yeah.
Eric, are you a punk guy? Punk rock? Is that you?
Yeah. Well, I played in a couple of bands back in the day.
What is? I had no idea. What instrument did you play? Were you a vocalist, lead, drummer? What?
Mostly the bands I was in were metal bands. So, singer, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, with quotes.
Air quotes.
Screamer.
Eric Holmes, did you carry a tune? Could you carry a tune back in the day?
I do hit up karaoke from time to time, and I will tell you, I will destroy a karaoke in a very good way. And if I get really drunk, the Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over, I'll bring down the Crowded House.
Now, okay, so we're getting into this. A big part of Movie Mainline is to actually get 10 to 12 movie recommendations for each podcast. So you, as our faithful listener, can hopefully curate your own picks for the week, and you'll have a head start for a given week of movies to hopefully watch. And we'd love to hear what you guys think of our movie picks once you see them as well. And we're always looking for movie picks on our end as well. So anyways, let's start off with Bruce Purkey. What do you have for us this week?
I've got a variety for you today, so I'll give you a choice. Do you want to hear about an old movie, a French artsy movie, a extreme disturbing movie, or a documentary first?
Yes.
Documentary? Or all of the above?
Yes. Yes. All
right. Well, we'll rotate around. I'll just start with probably the most lighthearted of the bunch, and that is Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary. 2019. It's on Amazon Prime. This is a really, really easy documentary. It's very much like you want to go into something lighthearted. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to be anything super serious. But it's pretty much all about the making of Galaxy Quest and kind of what it's meant for people over the years. And I kind of went into it thinking like, oh, it's going to be kind of a Talking Heads making of Galaxy Quest, which it mostly is.
That's
but
fine.
It's got almost all the actors in there. And what it really kind of tapped into, which I thought was cool, and I hadn't really considered this, but it really made sense, is it was like one of the first, if one of the only movies that basically included the fans as part of the story. And that's why it became kind of this beloved, almost like missing Star Trek movie in a way. They essentially made it as a Star Trek movie, but a send-up of Star Trek movies. And some of the main characters in the movie are essentially fans. And it's such a easy, I mean, I don't know if you guys like that movie, but I mean, it's almost a hard movie not to like. It's like Ghostbusters, you know?
I saw parts of that movie and I really enjoyed it, but I never got back to watching the full thing. But what I saw, I really loved. Eric, did you check that? Did you see Galaxy Quest?
I've seen Galaxy Quest many times.
Oh,
and
right.
It sucks so bad I had to watch it like 20 times. No, Galaxy Quest is awesome. One of my favorite lines is Sam Rockwell. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
see if you can fashion some sort of rudimentary lathe. No? All right.
It's, you know what I mean? It's like Ghostbusters. It's almost hard not to enjoy. And if you're into like sci-fi at all, or you ever were into Star Trek or any of that stuff, any version of that, I mean, you're going to like it even more. And the great thing about the documentary is it really gets into like, you know, how all the kind of the process of making a movie like that, you know, like who originally had it, had they lost a director, they had to get a different director, how they ended up with the actors they got, what actors they could have got. But if you look at it, it's almost a dream cast. I mean, it's an insane cast. You know, you've got, you know, Sigourney Weaver, you've got, like you said, Sam Rockwell, when he was basically unknown. You've got Rickman in there. I mean, you got people who wouldn't normally be in a movie like that, and they're all there. And you've got, what's
Tony
his name?
Shalhoub.
Shalhoub.
Yeah.
Just great actors in
Man,
roles that you
hell
wouldn't
of a
expect.
thing.
So yeah, it's a really fun movie. It makes you want to go back and watch Galaxy Quest again, if you've never seen it, once you want to watch it, of course, which is what a documentary like that should do. So tons of fun. So that's my first recommendation.
And you know, regarding first recommendations, I'm going to do my weekly name dropping moment. You mentioned Sigourney Weaver. This has nothing to do with a movie recommendation, but this is a little trip down memory lane that no one cares about, but hopefully someone out there in the ether, out in the world cares about. But I don't know if you guys are a fan of that movie Dave. I love that movie Dave.
Really? Yeah, Dave.
Yeah. So I interviewed her for Dave. I was with a bunch of college students. I was at UCLA. I was a UCLA Daily Bruin reporter, and she was as nice as can be. And someone asked her about, you know, how do you find great scripts or great projects? You know, what is, especially with the type of movies that are out there? I guess that was a general question. And she looked at the young female reporter, and she says, well, it's up to you, young college students, to make a difference in the world and write those scripts so I can be in them. And she said that in a very inspiring way for that young reporter. And I might have been too nervous to even ask her a question. I mean, that was friggin' Ripley back in the day, even though I was in my early 20s. Oh, yeah. But she's the coolest person. And I've interviewed her over the years a couple of times, but she's one of the nicest people I've ever interviewed. And it goes to your point, Eric. You've been trying to get a lot of people in our film community to just, I was going to say man up, woman up, first people up, and actually start writing their own scripts right now. Especially it's a good time with our current situations just to get up and start writing something. So
or create something. You can create anything, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you.
And anytime you can put like pen to paper, you know, paint the easel, whatever it is, you know, everyone's got that creative energy in you. Just get it out. You know, maybe it sucks. Maybe it's awesome. You never know until you get it from here.
Yeah.
You know, out of your head onto something. Doesn't matter what it is.
I can't create worth a darn, but you know what? When sometimes
Yes,
I like to leech. Thank you, sir. Thank you, because you're my friend. But that was biased. But I appreciate that. I can't create a darn thing, but sometimes I love when people create things. Like, for example, our friend Anderson Cowan directed Groupers, and one of my all-time favorite films, I'm sorry guys, is Raising Cain. And Carol created this, and it worked so hard to make this Raising Cain class for me. This is actually probably one of the only gifts a insecure human being like me got the last several years. So thank you, Carol. So she's a friend of yours, Eric, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I knew she was doing that. And that was when Anderson came out here to play Groupers. And so I had her make Clockwork Orange one for Anderson, and then I was trying to figure out, I can't remember if I hit you up personally or what, but I tried to figure out, I knew you liked Brian De Palma, and I was trying to figure out what your favorite Brian De Palma is, because you have the Brian De Palma glass and the Raising King glass.
I like him. How about I love him?
There you go.
I want to marry him one day. He may hate me as a human being, but I wouldn't mind being his lifelong companion.
Maybe we should get.
But yeah, it was. I was trying to figure out what your favorite Brian De Palma movie was without being too obvious about it. But it's funny you bring up Carol, because I got another name today.
Oh yeah,
Carmen.
Carmen. Okay.
Yeah, my friend Carmen. She has an Instagram, harsh glass. Either hit her up on Instagram or Facebook, and she does stained glass, like stained glass windows, stained glass jewelry. The last one I seen her do was these. It looked like you see like a shark teeth, not just the teeth, but like the jaw where it's open and it's got all the teeth. Like
yeah,
we'll put a link up somewhere, I'm sure. But she does really beautiful work, and I just wanted to point her out as well, because she does great work. I don't know how fast she does it, because stained glass takes a lot of work, so it might take a little longer than say as great as Carol is. The wine glasses probably go a little quicker than the stained glass does,
of course,
just because the work involved. But if you're interested, hit her up, because she does freaking awesome work.
Me being Catholic, my appreciation obviously of stained glass is high up there. So I love my stained glass windows. We're all about creating here in our podcast. I mean, Bruce, your son created that pretty awesome opening to the podcast. So I hope he's not.
I said we need music.
I'm sorry, you're saying what?
I just said we need music, and he went off, and he came back in like 10 minutes. He goes, "Here it is."
I hope your son is going to charge us an arm and a leg, because we might be asking for some more beds from him. So props to your son for creating the opening to Movie Mainline.
I'm not currently using my leg, so you send me your address and I will ship them to you.
Eric, what do you have out there as far as I always look forward to your esoteric, eccentric. Well, both you guys are eccentric. I'm just more run of the mill, but really, what do you got there?
Well, I don't have any dead bodies in my basement that you know of, but one I do have is a Cog Factory documentary. I think it's just called the Cog Documentary.
Right.
If you go on YouTube, just type in Cog Factory, Cog Factory Omaha. It'll probably be the first one that pops up. And I wouldn't call him a friend because I didn't know him that well, but he was a singer in the band in Omaha, Nebraska, where I grew up, called System Failure. And there was this punk rock club. Bruce might appreciate this. There's a punk rock club called the Cog Factory. And he's been threatening to make a documentary about this for over a decade, and finally came out about a month ago. It's about 45 minutes long, and it just for me, it's a bunch of nostalgia, because Cog Factory was a place I grew up at and went almost, at least once a week, realistically, probably 5 nights a week. And it just talks about it's kind of like CBGBs, but right. that kind of thing, but more of a hole in the wall. It was an all ages venue, not a bar, and just bands played there. And
nice.
I'm kind of curious, because I love it. I think it's awesome, but also I have the nostalgia that I grew up there. I'm kind of curious, and maybe on next week's Mainline Rewind. Maybe Bruce can hit it up and kind of give a
comparison.
Yeah,
to like
I can't speak highly enough about it, but I grew up there. I have all the nostalgia. I'd be really curious to see what someone that doesn't have that nostalgia thinks about it. But I think it's fun, and it's short enough if you like punk rock.
The Cog Documentary? Yeah, that's what it's...
Yeah, it's just a YouTube 45-minute YouTube video. I think it's just the Cog Documentary.
Cool. I'll check it out for sure.
And yeah, it's fun. There's a bunch of people I knew. I wouldn't say no because I lost touch with a lot of them, but there's a lot of people I knew in there, and yeah, it's a trip down memory lane for sure.
Nice.
Well, my one pick, I guess my big pick this week is this film I thought I would really not like at all. It's called How to Build a Girl, and it stars Beanie Feldstein. Beanie Feldstein, we know her.
How to Build a Girl?
Are you sure
it's not called Weird Science?
It sounds like an H.P. Lovecraft film, right? How to Build a Girl. It's a weird. It's based.
It's a research project there.
It is weird. No, it's not what I'm doing after hours. It's none of this really.
Maybe he's got the Bobby in the basement.
Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe don't cut that out, Bruce, because there may be cops coming.
Is there a well down there? You have a dog named Precious. I just want to make sure.
There may be a well. Someone needs to drink. So
was she a real big fat person?
That is a great. Oh wow, little Jonathan Demme callback. Very cool, Eric. I love that. It's called How to Build a Girl, and it's a lot more innocuous than what we are suggesting right now. It's based on a novel by Caitlin Moran, and it stars Beanie Feldstein. You've seen her. What was the movie that she was in earlier this year? Booksmart. She was the lead in Booksmart.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here in this film, she has a British accent, and it's a British film. For the first 10 to 15 minutes, I was completely taken out of this movie because I remember her from Booksmart, and I couldn't just wrap my head around her having that accent. She plays a girl named Johanna Morgan. She's a 16-year-old girl, and she has, she loves to read. She loves to write. She's a goody-goody. She doesn't have any real friends in high school. So she lives in her own world, and she wants to become a writer and leave her small English town, okay? What happens is she ultimately gets a job as a music review critic. And this takes place in the early 90s, okay? And you guys know in the early 90s, if you were writing for some kind of rock magazine or any kind of magazine, you'd make actually some bank. You'd actually make some money as a freelance writer or even as a staff writer. Now in 2020, being a freelance writer for any kind of – do magazines even exist? People don't make money doing this, but you got to think in the early 90s, a 16-year-old who becomes a music writer, she's starting to make money – more than the average teenager. But what happens is she lives in a very big fantasy world, and she ultimately starts off with all the great intentions, but she becomes a little bit more. One of her colleagues gives her a piece of advice that if you really want to make it in this business, you're going to have to write like an a-hole. You have to be a jaded music critic and really tear people down. And since she has the gift of the pen, she realizes that by actually tearing all these bands she's covering and putting them down, her star power skyrockets, and she becomes pretty much the toast of town because she's basically just gunning for everybody. And one of the people who she ultimately guns for is this guy, Alfie Allen. Do you know Alfie Allen? He was in Game of Thrones. He played the cowardly brother, one of the cowardly. He wasn't was he a Lannister? But did you guys see God?
Oh no, he was Reek, wasn't he?
Yeah, Reek. Yeah. Alfie Allen. Yeah,
and he's the brother of
Lily Allen.
Lily Allen. Yeah.
And he plays a brooding rock star named John Kite in this movie, and he's he pretty much steals the show. He's the guy he ultimately befriends that young music critic, and they have a friendship. It's a really pretty cool coming of age story, and it's like I like to put the football terms here, like a running back. Sometimes a running back he gets hit a couple times in the early game, but he gains momentum and he gets stronger as the game progresses. That's my favorite type of running back in football terms. And this movie, I was not buying her one bit, but as I got deeper into this movie, she actually won me over. And How to Build a Girl turned out to be a better than average coming of age drama /comedy. So it comes out May 8th in theaters, not really in theaters, but it comes out May 8th on demand. So How to Build a Girl, starring Beanie Feldstein, with Lily Allen, Alfie Allen, a whole slew. And there's Michael Sheen. There's a lot of cameos in this movie. So I really enjoyed that film.
Do the people that she's reviewing, are they like actual acts and stars from the era, or are they like made up like just versions of kind of style?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Her first review is a Manic Street Preachers concert.
Right.
But I don't know if they actually did. You don't see them playing really, but I think you hear a little bit of the music. And then, the movie starts off with the Elastica song Connection or something. And that's a great way to start a 90s era type film. Guys, like we could all relate to it because we lived through that era. So
sure.
And I think this will also catch the book smart crowd who really liked her in that. She's really good in this movie. So How to Build a Girl. It's not a horror film about Greg Srisavasdi's obsession with people he hides in a well or a closet. That's
we're writing that one.
I'm going to save that for next week. So
I don't know if this would be a spoiler or not, but you mentioned that she got success in tearing down people.
Yeah.
Do they play with that? Like, does that come to a head? Like,
it's got to be her arc, right?
Well, that's a great question, because that's something I completely should have mentioned. What makes this a better than average coming of age drama is it really deals with her being a total a-hole very well. It exposes it, and it lives in that muck for a long time, more than your average feel-good film. So by the time obviously it's a predictable coming of age story, but the fact that it's mired in that darkness for quite a while, that's the thing that really made me love How to Build a Girl. It's really brutal. It gets really brutal in this film too.
Because one of the things I don't particularly like about the film criticism or music criticism in general is and Anderson talks about this on CinemAddicts and Film Vault, is a lot of people like to play the part of we're just going to shit on a movie, or we're going to shit on a band, and that's their thing. It's like, we're going to shit on everything, and it just seems like a waste of time. And, if you didn't like something,
yeah, they're gonna.
If you got to see it and you didn't like it, obviously don't say you like it. But at the same time, if that's your whole bit, is I'm going to shit on everything, and that that's my thing, that's kind of a shitty way to go about it.
Well, and your whole point of like this, for example, one of our whole points here is we want to bring things that we think people might enjoy. There's no point of us coming with all the movies we hated this week. So yeah, I think your point is well taken.
So Bruce, what's your next pick?
So this actually kind of is a perfect segue, because I actually saw a movie I didn't like this week, but instead of bringing that to you,
asshole.
No, wait, no, Bruce, come on! It's time to SHIT on something. Come on.
Well, no, I'm just going to say I did.
We got to pump up the downloads here. What?
I really did not enjoy The Lodge, which came out. Well, it finally got dropped this week for more overall streaming purposes. It kind of had a slow release. I really didn't like The Lodge, and what it did is it reminded me that I thought it was very similar.
Was it The Lodge or The Log? Because it's real. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to.
They dropped a lodge. They dropped a lodge.
Okay.
It was a big lodge.
So
that
we're
lodge
trying to do jokes.
I wanted to pass that lodge and move along. So
I hear it's a great. Some people really like the movie too.
Yeah, no, some people love it. I mean, it's very divisive, and I think it's one of those things that if you buy into it, you'll really enjoy it, because it does what it does. But for me, I couldn't buy into it at the early level, and it just dropped me out, and I just couldn't go with it. So I thought it reminded me a lot of an older movie, which I hadn't seen for like 35 years. So I thought, I'm going to go back and see if I was right about this. And I went back and I looked up The Innocents. Now, if you guys have ever seen The Innocents from 1961, have you ever seen that, Greg?
No, I've never. Starring Deborah Carr.
Yes. And I went and found it. It is available. I looked it up. You can get it on DirecTV, but you can also find it on YouTube. You can find the whole movie on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And it is cinematography by Freddie Francis. If you know who Freddie Francis is, you have to go look at movies like he did The Elephant Man. cinematography for The Elephant Man. He also directed quite a few of the Hammer movies in the late 60s. So he did a bunch of those like vampire movies and stuff. He did some other really big ones. I should have looked it up. He did a bunch of cinematography for some really great movies in the 80s and the 90s even. And he does the black and white cinematography in this movie, and it's impeccable. It's amazing looking. But this, to me, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Very scary.
It's not, well, I mean, it's 1961. So I think if you like movies like The Haunting, this is like a great companion piece. But it is like the quintessential kind of gothic, creepy kid movie. And the basic setup is you've got it's really good, and it's weirdly like perverse in a very chaste way, for that era, right?
You said the Lodge? This isn't the
No, this is The Innocents.
Innocents.
Yeah. Oh,
The Innocents.
Right,
and when I went back and watched this because I thought The Lodge had a lot of similarities, which it does. And it's not nearly good.
What I'm getting at when you mentioned The Lodge, are you talking about the Alfred Hitchcock?
Oh, The Lodger. I've never seen. I've never seen
The Lodger. All right, never mind. I'm
cool.
dumb.
No, you're not dumb. You know what? I'm dumb because I see I'm a Hitchcock fan, and the big secret in the well. The big secret is I haven't seen not too many of his British films, so I can't really.
That was my confusion. I heard The Lodge. I'm like, how has he not said Hitchcock's name by now?
The Lodge is a brand new movie. Yeah, it's not. No. But The Innocents, all I want to say about it, it's really good. I mean, the basic setup is this. It's like you've got this governor. This guy, he has a niece and nephew. They're orphaned, right? And he's a huge, rich guy, right? And he's like, I don't care about these kids. He essentially starts the movie by saying, like, I don't care about these kids. I don't want you to ever bother me. You can run the house. I want to live my life and do my thing. I'm not going to be there. Go and take care of these kids. So he sends her to this great, wonderful house. She's kind of this church-raised woman, so she's very, very proper and everything. And she gets there, and there's these two kids, and they're super friendly and nice, but they're also super creepy. If you ever seen Village of the Damned, the old Village of the Damned, the little blonde crazy kid, one of those kids is one of the kids in this movie.
Wow.
And
nice.
Very quickly, you think that she's getting haunted, but she also thinks maybe they're trying to drive her crazy. It's the best version of the Henry James novella Turning of the Screw, which is considered a classic, like, kind of ghost story. But there's lots of other weird stuff in there about sexuality. There's stuff in there that even now is disturbing in a weird, really weird way. It's super creepy, but also has that kind of mannered 1961 style of acting in it. But it's beautiful, beautiful movie. I mean, it's like black and white beauty.
Bruce, this will be the only time I ever correct you. I believe the book is The Turn of the Screw. And the reason why, but here's the thing. Here's the caveat to The Turn of the Screw. Here's the correction. You know more about Henry James' stuff than I do, so you're more educated on that. So I will. You know what? I'm going to go check out The Innocents and review it for our rewind segment next week, because I know you're busy, Eric Holmes, next week with the Brandon Lee stuff. So I will do that as my homework. I'm excited to see The Innocents.
I think you'd like it. You've seen The Haunting, the original Haunting too.
Yeah. No,
I just that vibe.
I'm sorry. You know what? I just lied. I did not see The Haunting. Why did I just lied right now. I said yes because I thought it would be more cool if I said I saw Robert Wise's The Haunting. I'm sorry, folks. I'm a liar. You know why? I just realized I had it on my DVR a couple of days ago, and I asked my mom. My mom told me she didn't like The Haunting, and she said, "Should I keep it?" I go, "Nah." So that's the real answer, and I apologize,
okay.
Bruce.
Well, I think of the two, I think you'd probably like The Innocents better.
Okay.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, I was also lying about the corpses in the basement and everything. But Eric, what is your next?
Okay.
What is your? Well, this is a truth telling episode. What is your next? What is your next suggestion? Recommendation?
Well, before I get into that, Bruce mentioned Hammer movies, and right. I know next week we're doing a Brendan Lee retrospective. Maybe we should get together sometime in the future and just do. Hammer's got a bunch of movies, so it might not be a terrible idea to have a Hammer.
Hammer movies could be great.
So if you're listening to this, throw down your favorite Hammer episodes below and let us know.
One of my bands was actually named after a Hammer movie. I used to be in a band called Vampire Circus.
That is a great name.
Actually, that is Hammer.
Vampire. That was pre-Vampire Weekend. You had
Vampire
the name.
Circus. That's a Hammer movie. That's one of their really weird ones too, but it's a good one.
Cool. And truth to tell, I've never seen a Hammer film. or a Dario Argento film. So I'm just embarrassing myself right now. Eric, save me. Get me a. I'm gonna start telling more bad truths about myself.
I've seen many Army Hammer movies, but that's not what I'm about to talk about right now.
Call me by your name. Yeah.
I've been going back in time with the public domain movies, and I got really curious about how far back. What's the furthest back I could go? And I went back to 1906. And this is the first feature-length movie that's available, and it's called "Story of the Kelly Gang." And Greg, you were talking about the new one that came out.
Yeah.
This came out in 1906. There's about, I'd say about 15 minutes of this movie that actually exists. Mm-hmm. It's very rough. This you can find it on YouTube. What they do is because a lot of the movie is destroyed, and even as you watch it, the film that they have, a lot of it's really rough. But it's the story of the Kelly Gang, and it's a silent movie. Obviously, it's 1906, and they play what they have, and then there's reels missing, and the parts that are missing, they'll have titles come up that kind of explain the scenes that are missing, and there's some points where they don't have full reels to play, but they'll have like a picture of like a behind the scenes, or they'll have one frame that they'll hold up and just kind of give you an idea of what they shot. This is the movie as it is unwatchable, but it would be, if you're film nerd, if you're listening to this or watching this, I assume you are. This is really interesting to watch from a historical artifact.
Sure.
As far as we know, Story of the Kelly Gang is the first feature-length movie that's still around. There might have been one before it, but back in the day, they just, once they ran, they didn't have home video, so they just like fucking burn it or throw it away or whatever. But it's not something you're gonna kick back with the kids and the wife and watch. But if you're a film historian or you're interested in film history, it's definitely interesting to take a peek at.
Have you always been interested in film history, Eric? Just seems like you've been diving to, like, I think last week you had a pick from 1920 or 1924 or something.
Yeah,
of Orlac. Yeah.
I did just it's a pretty recent thing. Like a lot of the old movies are my blind spot, so I just like go back, and then the more I'm watching them, the more I'm kind of I get this idea that movies today, like, oh, they never did that back then. So it's cool to go back as far as you can and see how, almost watch in real time, how film kind of progresses throughout the decades and the century.
Well, and isn't it like a weird path too? Because you get pre-code movies, which get relatively progressive, but then all of a sudden you hit code movies and they change. So you see even like King Kong has stuff in there that you're surprised is in there. If you see the most restored version of it, where there's a lot more violence in there and sexual stuff. And even movies like, I was watching some of the old Universal. I watched like Dr. X. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but that's from like the same era as like the first Frankenstein and stuff. And they've got stuff in there and you're just like, wow. And Fay Wray's in that one too, by the way. Fay Wray, of course.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that like you said, it's really interesting to see them trying out things that they do later, but also seeing that certain things get lost too. Like you said before, like some of the use of just practical staging and lighting and sets and like matte painting and miniatures. They do some really amazing stuff with what they have back then.
Yeah. One of the interesting things I noticed about Story of the Kelly Gang is that when the actors aren't the center of the action that's going on, because there's no dialogue, but two characters are fighting, you'll notice like one of the characters just kind of kind of forgets the whole idea. the whole idea of being on camera is pretty foreign to them. They're not used to it. Whereas today that doesn't happen. Even the extras are aware that there's a camera on them. Ironically enough, you'll see when you guys are talking, I kind of, because the whole podcast thing is new to me. So it's like, but it's neat to see. It's neat to see how something that early, yeah, like you were saying, it's not so much the storytelling devices, but like the technical aspects of the movie making.
Yeah.
That early.
And they're really trying to figure it out as they go. A lot of that stuff.
Exactly. But yeah, you can definitely see it when like two people are fighting and one guy's just sitting in the background. It's like, well, I guess I'll just wait here until the fight's over. And
well, they don't know where the frame is, and the camera doesn't probably move. It's just on a big tripod, and it's giant, and they're cranking away, you know.
But also another thing that's fun, and I saw that I didn't see this recently. Maybe I'll pick it up in a later episode. But there's a movie called The Bat that does this really cool crane shot. It almost looks like part crane, part dolly shot, and I don't remember what year The Bat came out. I want to say the 30s, maybe. Could be way
sounds right. Is Bela Lugosi in that one? Who's in The Bat?
I don't remember. But
I know I've heard of The Bat.
I just remember watching it, and there was this crane. It had to have been a crane dolly shot, and it looked like something out of like. The film itself was real grainy because they probably shot it on 8mm, I imagine. But the way they moved the camera in it, I was like, this looks like a fucking David Fincher movie. Like if David Fincher was back in the 1930s, this would be something he would do. And I was just blown away that they had those kind of camera movements back then. So it's always fun going back, whether you like the story or not, just watching the technical prowess they had back then.
Yeah.
To do something, during the dawn of film. They're making shit up. They don't know how to work it, but then they do all these cool stuff that today would be impressive. And back then it's just mind blowing that they even pulled it off.
I just had this time travel idea for a script while you were talking, Eric. It's about this this filmmaker from maybe the 20s, maybe early to mid 20s, or maybe at the dawn of the sound era, maybe several years in the sound era. He studied maybe Sergei Eisenstein in the early days of filmmaking, so he knew all these crane shots and whatnot, all these cinematic techniques. But that's his own language, and he set time travels to present day with this whole knowledge of all this digital age. But he uses his own style from seemingly an antiquated era to make some of the most interesting movies around, because his mind is back in the 20s and 30s, which I mean, it's kind of a theme about how we have so many, like we talked about this last week, we have so many things at our disposal. Like you were saying, you can actually have a phone and you can shoot your own film. That said, I used that actual question to a director of this Tom Berenger film, and I said, really, is all you need like maybe a real story, and then that's all you really need. And maybe, because going back to your thing about phone, it's really basic on filmmaking. And he said, no, not really. You need a good cameraman. You need all the really cool elements to make a great film. And I think in my opinion, what I think is lost from, and I'm glad you're doing this, is this film education. Can you imagine what someone who knows more about filmmaking than us, that he or she may not know this Kelly Gang film, maybe that person can gain some kind of inspiration, or maybe cross-cutting techniques from the 20s that could influence how maybe they didn't go to film school. Maybe they learned from YouTube videos and their DP. So a lot of the directors today, I think they're just workflow, nothing wrong with that, workflow people who know how to wrangle all the troops. But can you imagine, I think directors back in the day, especially studio filmmakers, they really had to know their business. Yeah. So.
It's the old saying when having sex with someone, it's not the tool, it's how you use it.
Yeah. I don't have either, so I don't.
You have both. One of these days, I'm going to get you to create something. You're going to create something artistic, and it might suck, but you know what? Here's the thing. You're going to create something. Maybe you're going to draw a picture, and that picture is going to suck. It's going to be the worst picture ever made. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to make another picture. And that next picture is going to be better than the one before it. And that's how art is made. That's how creation does. You just keep doing it and you keep getting better.
Bruce, is there a way on the Zoom call I can mute Eric's sound here, his audio?
No, I'm sorry, it's impossible.
I appreciate all the encouragement, Eric. So I have, okay, we were talking about Sam Rockwell. I have an interesting pick. Okay, another name drop. I was interviewing this girl, actress named Phoebe Fox. She's in this upcoming series called The Great on Hulu, and she's in this new movie called Intrigo Samaria, which is out this week on digital. After watching that movie, which I liked, I liked Intrigo Samaria, 3.5 out of 5. I decided to watch another film before the interview. And I saw this film. Maybe one of you guys have seen this, especially since both of you are Sam Rockwell fans. Blue Iguana. Blue Iguana. I saw it on Stars. It's a movie that probably no one has heard about, unless you're the biggest Sam Rockwell fan. I did not hear about that, about Blue Iguana, until I looked up Phoebe Fox in different streaming services. It's a really good film. 4 stars out of 5 stars for me. It's like a Guy Ritchie light type of film, and instead of the guys being front and center, it's the female, Phoebe Fox. She plays a lawyer who goes to she goes to America to.
No, I listened to your review. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. She goes to America, and she hires these 2 recently released convicts, Ben Schwartz and Sam Rockwell, to go across the pond to London to just take part in a simple cash item transaction. And she said the only way you guys are going to get your $30,000 is if no one gets hurt in this transaction. They go across the pond. Ben Schwartz and Sam Rockwell's character, the transaction does not go well. Someone gets really, really hurt. That's all I'm going to say. And so they're not going to pretty much get their money. A lot of bad stuff happens. And so what happens is Phoebe Fox's lawyer character and those 2 crooks, they team up to try to pull off one of the greatest crime caper / heists. So each of them can make off with a lot of money and leave the crime business altogether. And it's just a funny sort of Quentin Tarantino meets Guy Ritchie light caper fair type of movie. And what the big twist is, you're thinking if it's a Sam Rockwell film and it's Guy Ritchie type film, he'd have the biggest laughs, but ultimately it's actually Phoebe Fox. She has this really cool, she's a really cool character in this movie. She all she does in with each scene, and they copy this from that Brad Pitt character from Ocean's 11. She's just is consistently eating with every scene. And it's a cheap joke, but it worked for me. In the beginning, she's just munching on a hot dog in a diner, and it's just disgusting to look at. And I actually asked her for that scene, that opening scene, which is really cool. I asked her how many hot dogs, and she said she had to, for that one scene, she had to eat 15 friggin' hot dogs. That's gross. Have you guys ever eaten 15 hot dogs in one sitting?
I've swallowed a few.
So with that's the best way I can close that one out. Blue Iguana, it's streaming on Stars network, Stars channel, however you call it right now. It's a good streaming service. Especially I'm surprised at how much I really love this Sam Rockwell Phoebe Fox film, Blue Iguana. Okay, Bruce, what you got?
Well, I guess we'll go extreme.
Okay.
Well, put it this way: what movie do you think? When you think of a movie that ends with a whispered secret that you never hear the answer to, what movie do you think of?
Rosebud. Oh wait, no,
that's the only thing whispered secret that I'm thinking about is Citizen.
Wait, hold on. The whispered secret that you don't hear.
Yeah, the audience never gets to hear what it is.
That's gonna bug the shit out of me. There's one trying to get out, and I can't think of.
Well, I know a lot of people always think of Lost in Translation as like a classic one, but that's not what this is. This is probably one of the quintessential of the French or the European extreme movies of the thousands, which I never had seen the full movie. So this is the story of this. And if you know this movie, you're going to be like, oh, you never saw the whole movie? I saw the first half, and I had to return it. So I never saw the second half. And that, if you know this movie, that's a pretty incredible thing. If you know European extreme movies, you're thinking things like Irreversible.
Sure.
You're thinking like Funny Games, like some of these really hardcore movies.
Yeah.
But I am talking about Martyrs.
Yes.
Have either you've seen Martyrs probably?
Yes.
And Martyrs is a hard movie, and I never saw the second half of it. Can you imagine that?
That's the best part.
This movie is extreme, and it's definitely not for your average moviegoer. This is a hard movie, but it's a good movie if you can stick with it, and it's a pretty intense movie, philosophically as well as just viscerally. It is available, I think, only video to rent right now, or DVDs. Okay. You can get it for like $2 or $3 if you want to see it, but go in treading lightly. I don't even know how to describe it without spoiling things, because almost the whole movie would be a spoiler. Let's just say it starts out as a revenge movie for the first half, and the second half turns into something completely different.
Yeah, that sounds enticing. That sounds very good.
I would back you up there and say, just watch it.
Yeah,
really.
Martyrs gets fucking. Yeah,
it's brutal.
I'm not going to say a damn thing. Just watch Martyrs.
It's brutal,
or don't, or absolutely don't watch Martyrs.
One of the most interesting endings to a movie that you can imagine.
Well, is it a satisfying ending? Satisfying ending to you, Bruce?
You'll literally jump out of your skin.
Whoa.
You will.
Whoa, that is it? How does it compare to? Let's see. I'm thinking. I haven't seen Funny Games, but how does it compare to Salo? 100 days? Is it 120 days or 100 days?
Different movie.
Yeah, Salo's that one's way more political. I mean, if you want to get into it, it's political and it's a little more there to gross you out. This one definitely has high gross out factor for sure. Ooh. But it's
no one's eating poop in Martyrs.
No,
I can remember.
Good.
Martyrs is much more. I mean, when you really get down to it, it's pretty philosophical in its actual ending. But it's asking some really big questions. Boy, I don't know how to get there without
it's more than a shock value type movie. It has more substance.
It is. If you can get through, it's kind of like you were saying with her acting, right? If you can get through the shock value, it has something to say. But it is going to be a tough ride for most people are not going to get through it. And like I said, I only got through the first half. And when you get to the second half, it takes a turn. And it takes even a darker turn than the first half, and the first half is pretty darn dark. So I mean, it's rough.
Okay, Martyrs.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's got a bit of a Parasite kind of.
Yeah, there's a comparison there.
I don't want to say much more than that, but there's a bit of.
It has a major twist. I would say it is one of the biggest twists you could ever see in a movie. And it will definitely hit you and turn you around. So if you're able to handle some of those other movies we talked about, it's worth it.
I really want to watch Martyrs again because it's been a while, but it'd be good to do like a spoiler discussion on that at some point because there's now that I'm thinking of it, there's some parallels to Martyrs and Parasite that I'm just now putting together in my head. I was like,
there's parallels to Parasite. There's parallels to some of the more recent kind of culty movies, so movies like Hereditary and stuff in the culty aspects, because there's different things going on here than you think at first, so you don't know where it's going. But
down the road, we should do sorry, Bruce. We should do some spoiler stuff just down the road, just for the heck of it. One of these days, we'll just get together on a dead Sunday, and we'll talk Martyrs, or maybe one of the movies we'll want to curate and just put it up on the channel.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Something strikes us.
Yeah. Martyrs. It's striking me right now. I'm just thinking about Martyrs, and I think I'll be able to stomach it. So because how to build.
If you've gone down those other paths, like if you've done something like Irreversible, or something like that, and which is a quality film, but a hard film.
Hard watch. That's a hard watch. Yeah, but
it's a hard watch, but it's a very good movie. It's a very quality product if you can get past the visual horror there. And same thing with this. So
okay, so Eric, your last couple of picks, a couple more picks before we skedaddle.
Well, I got you know what? I'm always doing the hipster picks. I'm going to do a two-peat that I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers have seen. I went and watched Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile. And I
Nice.
was going to do War of the Roses, even though that's not the third one, but it totally is the third one. But I had to pay for it.
Like where they ended up with War of the Roses.
But
Wow.
me, my brother, my nieces and nephew watched Romancing the Stone and then Jewel of the Nile afterwards. And I know Jewel of the Nile is known as the lesser one.
It's considered a bomb. It's considered an egregious sequel, and I don't know if that even holds weight today. Is it better than
I watched
forever?
Yeah.
They're campy for sure. They're funny. At their core, they're romantic comedies, but with a skin of an adventure.
Post Indiana Jones romance movie.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah. Imagine Indiana Jones as a romantic comedy. That's what Romancing the Stone is, and that's what Jewel of the Nile is. And I was watching them, and goddamn, they're funny. They're entertaining as hell. Unlike Martyrs, they don't go real deep, but that's not what they're meant for.
Yeah, they're the reverse of Martyrs. You could use them as a palate cleanser after Martyrs, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Watch Romancing the Stone, then watch Martyrs, then watch Jewel of the Nile, and then you go, oh, thank God, this movie.
Anything afterwards.
But I was thinking after watching those, and you don't need me to explain Romancing the Stone or Jewel of the Nile. We know.
But is Jewel of the Nile worth watching just as a sequel, though? Because it's considered.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so only because I watched Romancing the Stone. I love that movie. And we followed it right up with Jewel of the Nile. And we were already in the headspace. And the kids were digging it. And, we were just having fun with it. And it's just fun watching, Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito do their thing. And I was thinking while I was watching both of them was that they don't seem to make movies like that anymore. As far as the because romantic comedies are usually kind of whatever adventure. They don't mix them as well as they did with even Jewel of the Nile. As much shit as Jewel of the Nile gets, it's still an adventure romantic comedy that's fun to watch.
Like a big rousing adventure romantic comedy. You don't get those.
Yeah, exactly. And you go back to my brain doesn't work, obviously. Here's one thing for anyone listening to the podcast. You will see my brain, slowly deteriorate through each episode.
That's something to watch. That'd be cool.
Eventually it's gonna be like, here, what'd you watch? Okay. But I got but yeah, it would be fun to see another movie like Romancing the Stone or Jewel and Nile come out these days. I think
I'm trying to think of anything that fits that. Can you guys think of anything? Even the last 20 years?
Maybe Australia, maybe.
That came close, yes.
Yeah.
Like Fool's Gold, stuff like that. They kind of try to get there.
Great pull on Fool's Gold. Nice.
But but even then, it didn't really
doesn't capture that kind of that joyous big spirit, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I think a lot of it.
They also had that classic romance, bickering. That whole thing that you even see. That's even old school romance brought into that too. That whole idea of you get in the old bantery kind of comedies of. You probably know the classic romance movies.
Yeah. Maybe if they took something like The Notebook and put it, put Indiana Jones, took that story but put Indiana Jones' skin on it, maybe I don't know, but I think I don't know if you would call it a genre because it kind of really isn't one because I don't think there's enough movies that warrant a whole genre based off of it. But there's something in there that. If some studio were to, capture that, kind of figure out Romancing the Stone and do another one, you could have something special. But yeah, Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, and then War of the Roses, which I did not see this week, but throw that as the end of the three-peat if you want to run it.
Romancing the Stone was the first ever movie I saw on VHS. I remember because my late father was trying to put the VCR together at our home in West Hills, California. And he's a very patient human being, but sometimes he'll go off when he's just really stressed once in a while. And I remember him going off on my mom when she kept on nagging him about the VCR. But everything calmed down, and we watched Romancing the Stone. Was a great palate cleanser to that little dust up. And it was a great moment in movie watching history. I'm sure it would have been worse if a movie like Martyrs existed around that time. And that was our first VHS
I guess
watch.
maybe some of the David Lynch stuff in that era maybe could have pushed
Razorhead
that a little bit.
Yeah, and
they were going to watch a Razorhead. It's our first movie, kids. Come on, gather around.
And then 5 or 6 years
They had
later,
some Pink Flamingos. How about that?
yeah. I still haven't seen Pink Flamingos, but 5, 6 years later, when War of the Roses came out, I was a student at UCLA, and Michael Douglas came to actually talk about the movie, and I just seeing Michael Douglas in person was a huge thrill. And I thought to myself, I think I was a freshman or sophomore at the time, and I thought, man, I would love just for the rest of my life to interview actors and directors. How the F do I do that? I should have asked myself while Michael Douglas was speaking, how do I become a better writer and learn how to direct and produce my own movies? But sometimes I never ask the right questions. I'm still happy with what I ended up doing for the rest of my life. But I'm sure if Anderson was in the crowd, Anderson Cowan, he would have probably asked a different question. But goes back to the creating thing. So
you know what makes me really happy about Michael Douglas? I love Michael Douglas, and if he's anything like his father, I'm never going to watch Michael Douglas die. He will outlive all three of us.
It's probably true.
And I'm completely fine with that.
One of these days for Movie Mainline, we got to do top Michael Douglas films too. I mean, and there's still a lot of the films I haven't seen. I mean, I think he was in Coma, right, with Geneviève Bujold. That's one of the movies I still have watched.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I still have
Michael
to watch
Crichton.
Yeah. I have one more pick. Bruce, do you have a?
All I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Mainline Rewind. So if you want to do your pick, I can do Mainline Rewind after that. Perfect.
My last pick is nothing really. Well, I think it's kind of exciting. It's Amazon Prime Video. I did the press junket for The Mechanic with Jason Statham. Okay, I am not recommending that movie. It's still a good movie. After watching The Mechanic, I decided not to watch the Charles Bronson movie because I hear it was a really good movie. But several days ago, I was just thinking it's the same ending as that Jason Statham film. It seems it's probably just copying the original. Why watch the original? It was a stupid argument I had in my head for all these years. But I decided I'm on a weird Charles Bronson kick right now. I decided to go to the source. I watched The Mechanic. I don't know if either of you have seen The Mechanic.
Yeah.
Okay.
A billion years ago. I don't hardly remember it, but yeah.
Here's the thing. The Mechanic, what makes it brilliant to me, so this is fresh in my mind. The first 15 to 16 minutes, there is basically no dialogue. You see Charles Bronson as the mechanic. Mechanic is another name for hitman, scoping out his target, tracking him, and ultimately executing his mission. And that's a whole different movie. So the movie really doesn't start until 17 minutes into the film. And then it becomes a story about this big brother, little brother, father to son quasi relationship between Charles Bronson and Jan Michael Vincent. Jan Michael Vincent from we all know him from those Airwolf and Hooper. What is that? Big Wednesday, rest in peace.
Hooper? Hooper.
Hooper, that stuntman movie, right?
Yeah.
Directed by Hal Needham. So,
yeah.
Oh, fuck. Hal Needham. Retrospective on Hal Needham.
You get it right? Oh, yeah. We gotta do these guys, right? Hal Needham, of course, man.
I think I saw Hooper like twice in the theater with my family.
That is so awesome. You know what? I can't do you any better. The only thing I saw Burt Reynolds wise was
last thing I'll say about Hooper. Hooper made me want to go watch Deliverance because there's a point in Hooper where they're all sitting around and he's supposed to be the actor stuntman. So supposedly he's showing his old stuntman footage and he's showing himself from Deliverance going down the waterfall. So then I went and watched Deliverance and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, and you're probably thinking to yourself, man, why did I'm sure Burt Reynolds had a great career. Why did Burt Reynolds not do more Deliverance type films? He had quite the career, but he just never.
He did all those bullshit movies like Boogie Nights.
Oh wow,
Joking. I love Boogie Nights.
Oh, okay. There you go. Very good. As you show that, yeah, of course, you're joking. But so, yeah, The Mechanic, great film. Jan Michael Vincent plays his protege, the hitman's protege. And if you've seen the Jason Statham movie, you know what happens. But what's cool about The Mechanic, without giving too much away, it has a completely different ending than the Jason Statham version. And Charles Bronson is terrific. I was just wondering while I was watching this movie, why is this movie just as a Charles Bronson film? It just seems so moody and a little bit artsy and layered. It talks about you're talking about Martyrs. It talks about bigger themes about who's a real killer in this world. I'm like, what is this? And then I realized the screenplay was by, I think his name is Louis John Carlino. Okay. And he was the writer and director of that movie, that Robert Duvall movie, which I haven't seen and Anderson loves, The Great Santini. So
Great Santini, yeah.
Yeah. So Louis John Carlino was in his heyday, was a real filmmaker, and he was the screenwriter behind the movie. Was directed by Michael Winner. He's the guy who worked with Charles Bronson on, I think, 3 Death Wish movies. So Michael Winner was a solid filmmaker, an entertaining filmmaker, but I think the heart and soul of the film is a screenplay by Louis John Carlino. And I really want to see, after watching this movie, you said The Great Santini. I still have not seen The Great Santini.
Great Santini you should watch because that's one of Duvall's best performances. And I can see that through line of the writer there because there's a lot of there about like super tough guys and like what that does to people around them. And also there's like a level of kind of interesting examination of like machismo, but also them being kind of damaging people, you know. And Great Santini is amazing. Have you seen Great Santini, Eric?
I have not.
You should look into it.
I just wrote it down.
That's an insane performance. If you've never seen that, you have not seen some of the best of Duvall because I mean he's great in so many things, obviously, but he is
Mockingbird.
He's something crazy in there, and that movie is really good. Great Santini is amazing. Okay. There's some stuff in there that'll stick with you for sure.
Now to round out our Bruce, to round out our episode, Bruce Purkey is the guy who did the homework for our Movie Mainline Rewind, where we actually watch some of each other's recommendations.
Yes.
So what did you watch?
I've seen 2. I'm going to probably talk mostly about one. I'm not going to get into huge detail on either because we already talked about him. I did see Capture Kill Release, which is the found footage one that Eric had suggested. I want to definitely call out that one as a really great, pure found footage movie. And what I feel is different about it than other found footage movies, if you're into horror type movies, is it's kind of like take the idea of a thrill killing and a couple, and they're kind of almost a Mickey and Mallory sort of couple, except the guy is not really fully in on what's going to happen, and the woman actress in that movie is amazing.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure Eric will like support me on this because what she does is she does this kind of almost like gleeful. She almost has a gleeful, like playful attitude about it that is so sociopathic that when she follows through with the stuff they want to do, it gives you this really, really creepy vibe the way she does it. And the other part of that, the thing about that movie,
real quick, it's almost like she's planning a murder, but she goes about it as if she's planning a birthday party.
Yeah.
And then when he's not on board with this, like, what the fuck? What have we been like? She's pissed at him. And
but then when you see her doing that with somebody else and not him, you find out how sociopathic she is, like how much she can just turn that on. And she's been doing that the whole time. And that's when you can see the wheels turning in his head, but he's already too far in. And then it goes places that I didn't expect it to go as far as how like visceral it gets. It does show you some stuff as a low budget movie. You're like, oh wow, they're actually going there. They're not cutting away from the scene. That's pretty rough. It's really good if you're into that kind of into quality found footage and a good like lean indie horror. It's quality. The second one I saw was The House of with the Laughing Windows.
That's the one I wanted to see. The House with the Laughing Windows.
House with the Laughing Windows. So what I have to say is that if you're not into giallo, this is not the place to start because it's pretty hard to get into if you don't kind of know what giallo is about. I mean, it looks beautiful throughout. The cinematography is amazing. but it's got that weirdness that giallo and Italian horror movies have, especially in the 70s, where they're just, the plots are weird and they're disjointed and things will just change. Like the way he reacts to the woman in that movie is so like, the main character is so like ridiculous to her. And it's just such a dated thing. But by the time it gets to the final third, the final act, and I don't know if, I think you had said this too, Eric, is that this is the reverse of one like failing at the ending. This is one that really like wins at the end.
Yeah.
Because it ties everything together the way giallos usually do, and that's pretty satisfying. But it goes off the rails in a way that, if you like these kind of movies, is great. It does some really ridiculously weird stuff at the end, and it has some final reveals at the end that, if you're into that kind of thing, are pretty fun to watch. It's got a couple final shots and scenes that you won't forget. But definitely, I would not start here with giallo. I would start with your classic Tenebres, classic
Suspiria, I guess, is
Suspiria, or the early Bava one. I always want to say is Blood and Black Lace.
You could probably also go like David Lynch. Like if you've never seen Blue Velvet, that would probably be a good,
Blue Velvet,
as weird as Blue Velvet is,
and
as far as giallos go, like that would be a good like dip your toe in. And
I keep telling Greg that the things that Argento is doing in the era where he's doing like Deep Red, Tenebrae, Suspiria is so in line with what De Palma's doing in that era.
Yeah.
Like, I could so see you loving that era of Argento, because the colors, the weird stories, the kind of nonsensical plots, but insane style. It's very, very in line with like Dress to Kill, even some of Carrie, some of that stuff.
If Blowout, the De Palma movie Blowout, if that movie was weirder as it goes on, that would almost be a giallo. That just to give you an idea, because they definitely have horror elements, but they're also more mystery than anything.
They're mystery killer. They always have weird style, and the stories are almost always like kind of bonkers.
Yeah,
like they don't always make sense that much.
Which
you can relate to. It's some of De Palma's stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. One of the reasons why I haven't really even watched any of Argento stuff is I always have this fear of just, my big fear is I'm going to watch some of Argento's films and love it so much that I might realize how much I love his work more than a lot of De Palma stuff. So,
no.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, actually, a good one. Maybe Greg might like this. They Call Her One Eye.
Wait,
thriller,
they call her
picture.
They call her One Eye, or they call her.
They call her One Eye because she has one eye.
Okay.
You'll see if you watch it, you'll see a bunch of Tarantino borrowed a bunch from that movie with the Kill Bill movie, but that doesn't get really weird, but it'll give you an idea. It'll kind of ease you into the giallo kind of genre a little bit.
Very cool.
And it's also called Thriller: A Cruel Picture.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one. I'll look into that one. I've seen a lot of them though.
Okay.
Maybe I'll review it on a future episode because I didn't do it here.
I have so many ideas for future episodes. I was thinking this is not because of any kind of disability or anything like that. I was thinking of just for recognition. I wanted to do some kind of segment where I do a couple of picks from favorite films from eye patch wearing directors like Raoul Walsh or Fritz Lang, and I'm sure
Fritz Lang, yeah.
I don't know if Otto Preminger had a patch, but I know Fritz Lang and Raoul Walsh had a patch. I forgot who else had an eye patch. So one of these down the road, I'm going to do favorite films from eye patch filmmakers, because that's the distinguishing factor physically, but all of these eye patch filmmakers are visionary storytellers. So I'm
best one-time directors too.
Oh,
did we lose you?
Here we go. Here's one of them. Raoul Walsh, folks. It's
nice.
Called Each Man in His Time. I got this for 25 cents at my local library, and it's up on eBay. I mean, they were selling this thing on eBay for about $36 to $40, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it because it's Raoul Walsh.
See what books I got here. Yeah.
Where did you get that Dario Argento shirt, by the way, Eric? Did you just?
It was Goblin play. Goblin did a tour. They were playing the live band as they were playing the movie Suspiria, and then at the end they did an encore where they played just various themes from other movies they did in the past.
Very cool.
And
what is very
lobby
cool.
cards. They made little lobby cards.
Lobby cards from Suspiria.
I would say this: if you get a chance to watch any composer, like any film composer,
sure.
I've only seen two. I've seen Goblin, and before that, I got to see Fabio Frizzi. He did the live score with the Beyond. If you get a chance to you don't even have to like the movies. It's just awesome watching the bands play live while the movie's playing in the background. It's just you talk about watching a movie on VHS. Well, what's better than that? Watching a movie on DVD. What's better than that? Blu-ray. What's better than that? Watching it in a theater. What's better than watching a movie in a theater? Watching a movie at a fucking venue with the band playing the score live while the movie's playing. It's unlike anything I've seen before. I've seen it twice and it was awesome both times. And I know that what's his name? John Carpenter and fucking Christopher Nolan guy, Hans
Zimmer. Yeah.
There's my brain. You just watch it die in front of you.
Philip Glass probably did some, I bet. Didn't he do a bunch of stuff?
Oh, this is way off. Well,
Tangerine
kind of
Dream.
topic. I heard rumors that Mike Patton's trying to do a collaboration with Goblin, which fuck that.
I can see that. Yeah.
You watch my brain die, now you just watch me junk in my pants. That would be the greatest thing that ever happened.
You gotta admit, that Italian, like that weird electro disco, whatever they were doing in the 70s and 80s was just crazy. And you can think about even Sergio Leone stuff. I mean,
the
music in some of those Italian composers was really dominated, some of those movies, and really just gave them this sort of flair that was amazing. But I mean, that combination of like Goblin with Suspiria, I mean, you can't beat that. That's just ridiculous.
I mean, I think
so good.
You were saying, Eric.
I still say their best one was when they played the Phenomena theme song live.
Oh yeah,
that was so good. But
Phenomena,
I did not realize how much I loved that score until they played it live, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever.
Phenomena was like that. Also had a bunch of metal in it too.
A little bit. Not a bunch.
Motorhead and stuff in there.
Well, they didn't play Motorhead songs. They just played the score pretty much. But when they did Phenomena, they didn't do the full movie because the full movie was Suspiria, and then after that they did like the theme songs.
I gotcha.
The other movies. But they did the main theme for Phenomena, and that sounded so good. So good.
One of these days, we've got to do some kind of either post or a segment on our favorite Italian film composers. Obviously, everyone's going to say Morricone, but I was trying to. I looked up my Italian film composers. Pino Donaggio, the guy who did all those scores for Brian De Palma, like Blowout.
So, that's another thing. I tell you, man, you see some of that stuff, you're going to be blown away. You're like, it is De Palma's European counterpart because he was vibing into that so hard.
Yeah,
all right,
amazing.
So Dario Argento, Eric.
Oh, I was going to say until Bruce brought it up, I would have never put that together. But now that you brought it up, it's like, yeah, Greg, get on that.
Definitely get on that.
You're going to be like, where the fuck was this my whole life?
Well, folks, I have to go because there's a body out that needs to get tended to. I'm learning how to
not going to skin themselves.
Yeah. Hopefully we get more people listening after those comments. But anything else you guys want to say? Eric, Bruce, before we go, before we're off this week, any sign off?
Yeah. Check out harsh_glass on Instagram, and tell Carmen I sent you because she does great work, and study up because we're doing Brandon Lee next week.
Brandon Lee.
Bruce.
Awesome.
You want to say something?
I don't have anything special to say. I just look forward to doing this next week, and I look forward to watching all the movies and talking to you guys. cool.
And yeah, I have nothing to plug. I just want to tell you guys, whoa, what's up, man? Thank you for that music in the beginning, and you're amazing. I mean, Bruce's son is creating more than me, but I just want to say, you guys listening to this podcast or on YouTube, we'd love to hear some of your movie recommendations and your reactions to some of our picks as well. We want to open up this community. I think we have 4 people every week. Luis isn't here. Shout out to Luis. He'll be here back next week, but we're not just a 4-person team. I'd like to think of us the 5th person is the most important person, and that's you guys who are listening to this and giving us, hopefully down the road, some really cool movie recommendations for us to watch on a selfish level. So that said, we will see you next week on Movie Mainline.